I would wholeheartedly recommend working with Leading in Governance, and I think the reason for that is it's been really useful to have somebody to talk to who understands the challenges that you can face in your organisation but isn't afraid to challenge you. And I use that word challenge quite a lot because that is so important in governance. It's not a challenge where you need to feel defensive about it, but it's a challenge so that you're asked the questions: have you thought about this? Where do you think you're going with this? What's going to happen about such and such? And that has been useful. But I think as well the balance between the experience in the third sector and the social enterprise sector, but also the business sector, is invaluable, and that knowledge that Leading in Governance brings in has helped us. And I think you also need to have somebody who is respected by your board, because it's not so easy for somebody to come in externally and challenge the board in their thoughts on how governance should be operated within the organisation. So that has been really useful as well. The feedback from the board has been exceptionally good. They have been up for the challenge. They have thought that it was a rigorous process and there was a really good outcome. So I think it's been really useful for us overall. Well, as a chief executive of a social enterprise, I think that there's a balance that needs to be struck between making money and doing it for the right reasons. And I think that's where governance becomes so important for us, particularly for the social enterprise and the board that are involved in that. So it's a really fine balance, managing profits with purpose. And governance helps you put the structure in place and helps the board put the structure in place. It means that you're operating it for the right reasons, but you have the structures in place to make sure everything is open and transparent and compliant. So I don't think we could do without it. To be honest, it's very fundamental to how we do our business. Do you know, I think the process around developing governance in our organisation is an ongoing one. I can kind of remember the start of it. It's probably about 7 years now ago, and that was around bringing in external support to help us ask the difficult questions about what structures we needed to have in place. And I think developing a governance manual was a big thing for us, because then you get all the information you need in one place. But I think that that's an ongoing thing, because the review is important as well, and the making sure that board members are aware of the process and the requirements around governance as they come in as new members, and even refreshing the memory of those who are there has been important. So I think the paperwork is an important part of it, the structure, the processes, the systems, but there's a leadership element of it as well that's ongoing. I think bringing in external support to help develop strategy and governance is crucial, because you have to have time away from the day-to-day work to think about these key areas to help your business move forward. And I don't think, and in our experience, it hasn't been possible to do that internally. You really need a challenge function there. You really need to have somebody ask you the questions that maybe aren't that easily answered, or the ones that you're avoiding because you're just not sure of how what the answer is. And I think that's one of the things that's been really useful for us. You don't need to know all the answers right away, but you need to ask the questions, and you need to have a plan in place of how to put the process in place so that you can answer the questions already. I do think for governance for sometimes for people can be quite intimidating, but I think you have to start somewhere and keep going. I think you need to start with taking a little bit of advice, even a chat with somebody who knows about governance, so that you can be really honest about where you are with your governance structures and where you'd like to be. And I think the other bit of advice as a chief executive that was looking at governance was, don't just assume that it's all your job to do, because it really isn't. You can put the blocks in place, but it's the board and the chair in particular who have to drive this process. So at the start you need to involve your board, and particularly your chair, in that conversation as well, because you're all in it together, and it's really about governance of the organisation overall. So with doing that, it's not so overwhelming. Everybody has a role to play and has jobs to do. So I think I'd probably say to start there first.